Another thing that we played this week was MX versus ATV Legends. Vincent, tell us a little bit about this game and how we played it.
Yeah, so these codes were provided by THQ Nordic and Rainbow Studios. The game released yesterday as of recording on June 29th, I believe. June 28th it came out. And so we're free to talk about it now. James, we got these codes pretty recently, so we are not super far into the game, but we were able to play alone and together. Got to squad up in some online mode and stuff. And so we have some thoughts going into MX versus ATV Legends. To give a brief little history, I grew up on MX versus ATV for the PS2. Like, I'm talking, I would play this couch co-op split screen all the time with my brother, my neighbor. Like, we would play this all the time. Now, one thing they did bring back from those original games, from the original, like, I mean, they were before PS2 also, but is split screen, like couch co-op. So you can do that in this game too, which I really appreciate. I know it probably won't get taken advantage of a lot because couch co-op is not as popular, it seems, I guess now. I'm sure it is for the younger generation, but like for us, it's...
I was going to say, in terms of my history, I grew up with a lot of this era of racing games, a lot of those dirt rally games for the PlayStation 1. They weren't dirt rally, but they were like other sorts of racer games like that. Motorsports games. I did play MX versus ATV. I forgot what the original title was for the PlayStation 1. And I absolutely played the shit out of it as a kid. I remember playing and my parents getting mad at me because the sound of the motorcycles was so loud and just so consistent that like I would be like turn the volume down. Turn the volume down. And my little like 8-year-old self was so crushed. Because all I wanted to hear was motorcycles.
Exactly.
Vincent, tell me a little bit more about your experience with the game.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Jumping into this, you're presented with bikes, ATVs, and UTVs, which is cool. So the bikes, the two-wheeled, you got the quads, and then the kind of caged four-wheel car rally
bigger four-wheelers.
Yeah. And I was expecting this game to be extremely arcadey, just like the original ones were. I know I'm saying original ones, but the ones I have experience with at the very least. But it's not. It's a little more in depth with having a 2-stick steering method and a 2-stick, like one stick is to steer, the other stick is to lean. And so you're like can lean into turns or turn on turns, but you kind of like, you really have to get that down. And I feel like I'm not even close to mastering that, like at all, which if you can master it, I'm sure that would be fun, but it's actually a little frustrating at first because I don't feel like I have any control over my bike. Talk a little bit about customization.
Okay, so customization, what happens is I like that all of it's in the menu. So you just open up your menu and go straight to your garage or to your locker and you have all of your customization options. You have all of the ATVs, all the UTVs, all the bikes that are available to you. They're not all available right from the jump. You can see all of them right from the jump. You have all of the unlockable suits and helmets and all those things you can access straight from the menu and customize and switch out whenever you'd like, which I really enjoy because I hate having to go somewhere to modify my gear, my equipment, whatever. And you can even tune different parts for your different vehicles. So whether that's a bike or a UTV or an ATV, all of which you can totally tune on the fly in the world when you're going around racing, doing all these things in between your scheduled races and stuff like that. All that's contained. You can change the name on your jersey, which is fun.
Very fun.
Aside from that, there's little personalization that you can put into your outfit or onto your bike in terms of any sort of like graphics or decals or anything like that.
Everybody looks very similar on the lineups.
It's true.
Yeah, very similar. I will say that the career mode in this is pretty damn expansive. Like,
it is pretty extensive, yeah.
Like you really have, I said like 300 and something levels just in the motorcycles or the MXs, you know what I mean? And then there's like that same amount in the quads and same amount on the UTVs. So like that's almost 1,000 levels worth of stuff that you could try to jump in and master. Now I played a lot of those on the regular normal difficulty. I got my butt destroyed. I am so bad. Like these guys were good. Yeah. It's crazy. So I really think that comes down to mastering the two stick driving thing, which I don't have down.
And that's what I wanted to bring up is you talk about thinking this game is going to be arcadey.
Yeah.
But I think this game actually caters to the more hardcore
Yeah.
racing game audience because these systems are really in depth. I was going through some of the tutorials in the beginning of the game, and it took me a while to get these some of these concepts down. Things
Right.
like leaning forward and back on both the right stick and the left stick to either maximize jump distance
Mhm.
or jump height, or whether you want to go, whether you want to go far, but you aren't worried about going, tall
Right.
with your jumps. So
Yeah.
these things really like take a long time to get down,
Yeah.
um, in order to really make the most out of this experience. And I could only imagine what this game could feel like when you do really take control
Yeah.
of the game systems.
Right. Which is kind of what I want to drive to. Like I want to get there. I want to get there so I can feel competitive. Right now I
Right.
don't feel very competitive even in the career mode.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
because I think that's the AI know what to do. Whereas when we played multiplayer, I felt like it was pretty even because everybody was like,
Right.
you jump into a match and it felt like, okay, I could probably beat these guys or they could probably beat me. It just like, we're just doing it. We're going.
With the exception of that one guy who was just
Yeah, that didn't make any
so far
sense.
ahead of us for some reason. I
Yeah,
was like, why is this dude
right
just
off the
so much
line, bro.
faster
Right
than
off the line, he
us?
just took off. Now, I did
Yeah.
play one multiplayer match really late last night. I wanted to play some more, and it was I only had this experience one time, but it was unplayable, James. There were these walls of it was like rubber bandy, these walls of like, I don't know, textures going through the air
Uh-huh.
on the whole map. And so me and the other guy just started doing
Oh.
donuts because we were like, I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't really, it's just nothing could happen. I did take a video to send to you, but now again, I haven't run into that a lot, but I didn't like that was like one of 10 multiplayer matches I played yesterday. That was like, you couldn't do
Mhm.
anything. Also, there was one other player. I don't know if the online player base is big. We talked
Mhm.
about this too. There's a trophy for completing 25 online matches. If you want to get those trophies we played this on PlayStation 5, by the way. You're going to want to jump into those multiplayer matches sooner rather than later, I think.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Because even in our time, we were getting repeats of the
People.
same people,
Yeah.
kind of every game.
And it's not cross-platform, so maybe we're just playing with PS5 players. And at the
Sure.
time, it is one day after release, and we were playing on like a Thursday afternoon. So kind of a weird time, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try this weekend, see how the lobbies are. This is another thing that they wanted to kind of highlight. The game is highlighting over the next couple of days is that there's a bunch of new DLC vehicles coming out today from leading manufacturers such as Hyundai, Kawasaki, Suzuki, like all these different ones, Yamaha. And then on July 5th, there's a huge national tracks like DLC thing where it's just like the real world tracks in the game. And that's a big point that the game is trying to get towards is like, oh, you have a career, like you gain fans by doing these levels, and then you get invited to these big events to like compete with other professionals. So I like that concept. That's cool. But something about it is not grabbing me, I guess. Like I don't feel the desire to go back all the time, but I am having fun. I do have a good time.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me that I would love to see is expanding these open world parts to give you more meaningful things to do in these sort of like sandbox playground areas. Because right now they're just two collectibles. There's two types of collectibles. There's like
Scenics. There's scenic
yeah,
areas.
scenic areas, and I don't know, they're just called collectibles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of them is like a big red floating
Helmet.
icon,
Yeah.
and the other is a big yellow floating icon.
Right.
And all you got to do is you got to drive through them, like whether that's off of a jump into them or get to the point that they're at and you collect them. That's all you really have to do in the open world. But I would love to see things like little speed zones, or that you have to like get to a certain speed in this zone from point A to point B to like get, a certain award and get money for it,
Yeah.
or, things like that in the open world that kind of give you more pull to actually participate and do these things. Whereas right now you have kind of the options of either, okay, you do your career or you do online, and you can go into like the open world, but there's not really a point to
Yeah.
it right now. And I would
Yeah.
love to see something like that.
Yeah. I would love to see that in the future as well. But I am having a good time with this. I probably will try out some more stuff, especially when, I mean, I'm looking forward to the updates, like the post-launch updates when they get feedback from like how the game is playing and stuff, and see how they kind of tune it
Mm-hmm.
up. And this game does retail at 49, so it's like a $50 game. It's not a $70 game. But yeah, I mean, if you like these kind of like dirt rally games, I would say the graphics are pretty good. It's not like amazing, not like the greatest thing ever, but it does look nice in my opinion.
I would say if I were to rate the graphics on a scale 1 to 10, they'd be like in the 6 to 7 range.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah,
don't know how well optimized this game is for the PlayStation 5
very true.
yet, and see if maybe it's a PlayStation 4 title that we're playing on our PlayStation 5. So I don't know how hardware plays a factor into that. One more thing I want to touch on is sometimes the settings are a little bit wonky depending on presets.
Yeah.
Um, for example, going into tutorials, one of the things was there's an option to turn off where if you're in the air and you go when you turn on the throttle or push down on the throttle, that your bike will turn forward.
Yeah.
And there's an option to turn that off in the settings and to have it just controlled with the stick.
Oh, that's what I
And
want.
I didn't know that. So it was the preset was that it was off, right? So that it wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then I went into the tutorial, and one of the things in this jump tutorial was talking about that. And so I would do it and nothing would really happen.
Okay.
And the tutorial, it still allowed me to complete the tutorial just because I got to the end of it.
Yeah.
But I would like the tutorials to be a little bit like a little harsher, I guess, on the
Mm,
player to like make sure these systems are in place and have a little bit more step-by-step guides on like, okay, like you might need to check this setting is off if you like,
sure.
to in order to understand this mechanic,
Yeah.
or just so that players don't really like fumble through these tutorials and they say, oh, I guess that's what's going on,
Hmm.
and not really left with a sense of clarity.
Because if you don't have a sense of clarity, then you can't actually go and compete. That's the kind of
Right.
that's where I'm like that's where we feel behind is because maybe the tutorials weren't helpful enough in the very basics. Like, yeah, cool. I learned how to
Hmm.
clutch and like I don't know, throttle for a good start, and I learned how to kind of move in the air. But like moving around corners, I don't feel like I know what to do there. Like it tells you not to brake, but you kind of have to, or else you go off track and you got to reset. I also like how the
Hmm.
resets are pretty quick in this game. You don't have to like really hold it down. You can just click circle and you're back on the track. Like a
Really, I
quick
felt the
tap.
opposite. I
Okay.
felt like I had to hold it
You could just
for
tap it.
like a whole.
Yeah,
Really?
you just tap it and you reset right back and you can go.
Oh,
It's
okay.
nice. Guys, thank you so much for listening to our MX vs ATV talk. This is kind of like a review in progress, I would say.
Review in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, or initial impressions.
Initial impressions of the game. Yeah, thanks so much for checking this out.
Mhm.
And stick right here with Stricken Casual for all your movie and game news. Appreciate you guys.